A few years ago, a buddy of mine called me hyped out of his mind. He just put $2,000 into a highly volatile tech stock, convinced it was going to double by the end of the month. Meanwhile, I knew for a fact he was sitting on over $8,000 of credit card debt at a brutal 24% interest rate. He ended up making a cool 10% on that stock, felt like an absolute financial genius, and completely ignored the fact that his high interest debt was quietly eating his net worth alive in the background. Okay, so that story right there, that's basically 90% of the emails I get. Somebody wants to know if they should buy Nvidia or Bitcoin or whatever's trending this week, and when I ask, hey, do you have any high interest debt? Silence. Or worse, well yeah, but that's a separate thing. It's not a separate thing, it's the whole thing. Hey, welcome back to the channel where I say truth only. And today we're talking about something that isn't sexy, isn't going to make you rich by Friday, but will genuinely put more money in your pocket over your lifetime than almost any stock pick ever could. And that's the order you actually put your money to work in. Not what you invest in, what order you do it in. Stick around, because step 4 on this list is one almost nobody uses correctly. And it's honestly a little embarrassing how few people know about it. If this is useful, a subscribe helps the channel a ton. Now, let's get into it. Why order even matters. Here's the thing most personal finance content skips over. Two people can invest in the exact same index fund, get the exact same market return, and end up tens of thousands of dollars apart, just because of the sequence they built their finances in. It's not about picking better investments. It's about not leaking money out the sides while you're trying to fill the bucket. Some recent surveys suggest something like a third of Americans don't have much of a cushion for a surprise expense at all. That's the backdrop here. So, before we talk about growing money, we have to talk about not losing it. Step 1. The Don't Panic Sell Fund. Before a single dollar goes into the market, you want a small starter cushion, not the full 3 to 6 months of expenses number everyone throws around. That's step 4, not step 1. I'm talking about something more like $1,000 to $2,000 to start. Why so small? Because the goal here isn't to be fully protected yet. It's to make sure that when your car battery dies or your dog needs an emergency vet visit, you're not reaching for a credit card. That's it. That's the whole job of this fund at this stage. I remember early on in my own journey, I had just committed to saving money and felt incredibly motivated. Literally 2 weeks later, my car's alternator gave out. It was a $600 repair. Without that starter $1,000 in cash, that $600 would have gone straight onto a high-interest credit card. My momentum would have been completely killed before I even got started. Having that small starter fund turns a major financial emergency into a minor, boring inconvenience. Step 2. Grab the free money first. This is the step people get wrong constantly, and it genuinely costs them real money. If your job offers a retirement plan with any kind of employer match, you contribute enough to get the full match before you do almost anything else, including, in most cases, before you aggressively attack debt. Think about what a match actually is. If your employer matches, say, 50 cents on every dollar you put in up to a certain percentage of your salary, that's an instant 50% return the moment it lands in your account. There is no stock, no crypto, no real estate deal that reliably hands you a guaranteed 50% or 100% return on day one. Skipping this to pay down debt slightly faster almost never makes mathematical sense. You're leaving guaranteed money on the table to save on interest you could tackle next. One caveat worth knowing, some employers have vesting schedules, meaning you need to stay a certain number of years before that matched money is fully yours. Worth a quick look at your plan documents, but it usually still makes sense to grab the match regardless. Step 3. Kill the expensive debt. Now, and only now, we go to war on high interest debt. I'm talking about anything sitting north of roughly 7 to 8%, which in practice usually means credit cards, some personal loans, maybe certain private student loans. I once worked with a guy named Marcus who had about $15,000 in credit card debt at 21% APR. But Marcus was absolutely obsessed with the stock market. He spent hours every day researching small cap stocks, trying to find the next big winner so he could pay off the card in one lump sum. He actually did pretty well one year, pulling in a 15% return on his investments. He felt like a market wizard. But here's the brutal math. While he was earning 15% on his $5,000 investment, his $15,000 debt was compounding against him at 21%. He was actively losing ground every single month, running on a treadmill that was moving faster than he could sprint. It wasn't until he paused the investing, faced the debt head-on, and wiped it out that he actually started building wealth. You simply cannot out-invest a high-interest emergency. Paying off a 20% credit card is mathematically identical to finding an investment that pays a guaranteed, risk-free 20% return. You will never find that in the stock market. Kill this debt first. Why does this come before more investing? Because paying off a card charging you upwards of 20% interest is, functionally, a guaranteed 20% plus return. No index fund promises that. No advisor promises that. Carrying that balance while putting extra money into a brokerage account is like bailing water out of a boat with a hole still in the bottom. You're working hard and still sinking. Two common approaches here. Knock out the highest interest rate first to save the most money mathematically, or knock out the smallest balance first for a quick psychological win. Both work. The best one is whichever one you'll actually stick with. Back when I was getting my finances together, I had a credit card statement come in showing I owed about $4,500. I looked at the interest charge for that single month. It was nearly $90. Seeing that raw number written out made it click instantly. I realized I was literally handing a giant bank 2 video games or a nice dinner out every single month just for the privilege of carrying their debt. That $90 wasn't going toward my future. It was just burning a hole in my pocket. I immediately flipped my strategy, stopped trying to pick hot stocks, and focused every spare dollar on wiping that balance to zero. Step 4. Build the real emergency fund debts gone. Now we go back and finish the emergency fund properly. 3 to 6 months of essential expenses sitting somewhere boring and liquid like a high-yield savings account. Freelancers, commission-based earners, or anyone in a less stable field should lean toward the higher end of that range. This is genuinely the step people are most tempted to skip because it just sits there instead of growing. But that cushion is what keeps you from having to sell investments at a terrible time, like during a market downturn, just because your furnace picked that exact month to die. Step 5. The account almost nobody uses, right? Alright, this is the one I promised you. If you have access to a health savings account, meaning you're enrolled in a high deductible health plan, pay attention, because this account might be the most underrated tool in the entire tax code. It's the only account that gives you 3 separate tax breaks. Your contribution is deductible, it grows without being taxed, and if you spend it on qualified medical costs, you never pay tax on the way out either. Most retirement accounts only give you 1 or 2 of those. Here's the move. If you can afford to pay small medical bills out of pocket now, do that and let the HSA money sit invested and grow. Save your receipts. There's no deadline on reimbursing yourself, so that $200 doctor visit today could theoretically be reimbursed from a much larger account decades from now, completely tax-free. After 65, you can pull the money out for any reason without penalty, though non-medical withdrawals get taxed like a regular retirement account at that point. If you don't have a high deductible plan, that's completely fine. Just skip to the next step. Step 6. Max out your IRA. Next up is an individual retirement account, either Roth or traditional. The general logic: if you expect to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement than you are now, traditional, where you get the deduction today, tends to make sense. If you're early in your career and likely earning less now than you will later, Roth, where withdrawals in retirement are tax-free, often wins out. Nobody can predict future tax rates with certainty, so if you're torn, splitting contributions between both isn't a bad way to hedge your bets. Step 7. Go back and max your retirement plan. Now you circle back to your workplace retirement account and push contributions beyond just the match, up toward the annual limit if you can swing it. The contribution caps do move most years, so it's worth a quick search for the current year number rather than trusting an old figure someone quotes online. Step 8. Taxable investing. Finally and only after all of that, the starter fund, the match, the debt, the full emergency fund, the HSA, the IRA, the maxed out retirement plan, do we get to a regular taxable brokerage account? This is where you can invest without contribution limits or withdrawal restrictions, which makes it great for flexible goals like an early retirement bridge or a house down payment. The trade-off is tax drag. Dividends and gains get taxed along the way, which can meaningfully shrink your ending balance compared to a tax-advantaged account earning the same return. But once everything else is maxed, this is genuinely a great problem to have. Wrapping up. So, to recap the order, a small starter cushion, the employer match, high interest debt, the full emergency fund, HSA, if you qualify, IRA, maxed out workplace plan, then taxable investing. Realistically, most people won't get through this entire list, and that's okay. The point isn't to guilt yourself, it's to make sure that whatever dollar you're about to invest next is going to the step that actually deserves it first. For me, getting onto this exact framework completely changed how I look at my money. Before I followed a clear order, I used to feel this constant, low-grade anxiety every time I opened my banking apps, always second-guessing if I was doing the right thing, worrying if I should buy a stock because it was up, or if I was falling behind. Once you follow a system like this, that anxiety just evaporates. You stop reacting to the daily noise of the market because you know exactly where your next dollar belongs. It turns money from a source of stress into a boring, predictable engine that just works for you in the background. If this helped clear things up, drop a comment with which step you're currently working on. I read all of them. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. See you in the next one.